Antarctica. Well, it captivates us because it remains one of the last true frontiers on Earth. It's this vast frozen wilderness untouched by civilization. Then you have the extreme conditions, howling blizzards, endless nights, creating an environment which is naturally hostile to humanity. Beneath the ice, though, well, we don't know, do we? It's a world of mystery, hidden lakes, ancient fossils, and secrets of Earth's past and future. The idea of something lurking there, in this desolate expanse, fuels our imagination, which is certainly the case in tonight's feature-length story. Now, this is a big one, so I've split it up into chapters and put the details in the video. So I know you can't always see all of this in one go, so take your time and enjoy. Well, without further ado, here we go with I found a Soviet commander's Antarctica diary. Here are his stories, by Margot Holloway. Episode 1. The Ice Below. Translated and compiled by Dr. Adam Rourke, McMurdo Research Station, Antarctica, January 3rd, 2025. Well, I'm not a writer by trade, I'm a glaciologist, trained to read layers of ice, not human emotion. I specialize in subglacial formations and the long-term memory of the Antarctic ice shelf. The past, for me, has always been something that can be measured in microns of compressed snowfall. Well, that is, until now. On December 21st of last year, during a solo snowmobile survey of the Filchner-Ronne ice shelf, I picked up a cluster of anomalous radar returns from beneath a dune of Winsept Fearon. The echoes resembled architectural geometry, sharp corners, vertical walls, and a density inconsistent with naturally occurring ice cavities. I assumed it was an old research container or some Cold War debris, common enough in these parts. But what I found was different. And the structure was barely visible above the snowline, a squat, rust-caked building made of corrugated metal, its entrance nearly buried. No markings, no flags, no radio beacon. It didn't appear on any satellite surveys, recent or archival. Well, I spent over 2 hours clearing the entryway and forcing open the warped hatch. Inside, the temperature was well below freezing. The air smelled of diesel and something older, coppery, like dried blood or decayed electronics. The interior was a single room, an iron cot bolted to the floor, a steel locker, a table with rusted tools, and a set of crates pushed into one corner. On the table was a leather-bound book, its pages cracked and brittle. It was a journal, written in Russian. Over the next few days, I recovered 5 more, each hidden in metal tins, sealed in wax, protected from the worst of the ice. I've since translated the first volume. The handwriting belongs to a man named Sergeant Alexei Volkov, apparently part of a Soviet Spetsnaz reconnaissance unit stationed here during the early 1960s. And what follows are his words, unedited, unembellished. I've only corrected for clarity in translation. His entries describe a mission unlike anything I've encountered in the historical record. An isolated Soviet outpost established deep within the polar plateau for reasons that remain unclear. At first, I thought the entries were the ramblings of a man succumbing to isolation. But the descriptions, the things he saw, the things he heard, are too precise, too consistent. And the worst part, satellite scans taken 2 weeks ago show something stirring beneath that sector of ice. Something moving. I present these journals not as proof, but as evidence. Interpret them how you will. But I warn the reader, this is not a story of politics or espionage. This is a record of something much older, much colder. And it has begun to thaw. Dr. Adam Rourke, McMurdo Station, Antarctica. Diary of Captain Alexei Volkov. Entry 1. January 12th, 1962. Location Base 717, Queen Maud Land, Antarctica. Classified. UR-54 echelon clearance required. Well, it's difficult to describe the silence here. Even in Siberia, the wind has something to say. Trees to rattle, animals to spook. But here, in the southern desert of endless ice, the wind speaks only to itself, and it never tires of the sound of its own voice. I have not heard a bird in months, and I doubt I ever will again. My name is Captain Alexei Volkov, formerly of the 4th Spetsnaz Brigade, reassigned under a directive so classified that my orders came not through official channels but by a man in a charcoal suit with a Moscow accent far too smooth for the military. I was told only the basics. I was to lead a team of 6 operatives to a covert facility in Queen Maudland. Our objective? Long-term reconnaissance and environmental monitoring. But we are not scientists. We arrived at Base 717 3 weeks ago. Our base is generous. It's a reinforced subterranean bunker, constructed under the guise of a meteorological outpost. Externally, it's unmarked, buried beneath 2 meters of ice and snow. It does not appear on any official Soviet cartography, nor do I believe it's known to our American counterparts. Even radio transmissions are routed through bouncing satellites with artificial delays and encryption keys that change every 48 hours. Moscow does not want us known. The original construction was done in 1958 by a different crew. According to the sparse records left behind, they were geologists and radio technicians. No names, no photographs. Their notes end in November of 1959. The final log entry reads only, anomalous signal increasing. Recommended immediate exfile. There is no record of their extraction. My team consists of 7, myself included. Sergeant Mikhail Antonov, demolitions and heavy weaponry. Lieutenant Vasily Orlov, radio and surveillance. Corporal Dmitry Karsakov, medic. Private Irina Belova, linguistics and code breaking. Unusual, but she came with recommendations from someone high up in GRU. Private Yuri Petrov, scouting and fieldwork. Lastly, Comrade Professor Lev M. Turgenev, our scientist, if one can call him that. His specialty? Polar anomalies and terrestrial resonances. I'd never heard of such a field until this mission. Turgenev is a pale, bird-like man with an unblinking stare and a voice like frostbite. He rarely speaks, except when muttering to himself in German or occasionally Latin. I suspect he studied under the Germans after the war, perhaps part of the brain drain programs. He carries with him a worn leather case that he never lets out of his sight. Inside are dozens of old maps, some clearly hand-drawn, most water-damaged and nearly illegible. He claims they're navigational tools, but I'm not so sure. Our days are strict. 0700 wake, 0730 rationed breakfast, 0800 systems check, 1000 perimeter scan, 1200 environmental logging, and the rest of the day divided between maintenance, exercises, and monitoring the anomaly. Now, the anomaly is why we are here, though no one will admit it openly. Roughly 19 kilometers southeast of Base 717, under the ice shelf, there's a heat signature. Stable, consistent, and entirely out of place. It pulses every 11.2 minutes. No seismic activity accompanies it. No emissions on any known frequency. But we know it's not natural. Every 72 hours, Turgenev leads an expedition to the location with 2 volunteers. They return, pale and shaken, refusing to talk about what they'd seen. Turgenev writes feverishly in his own leather-bound journal. I tried to read it once. It was written in a cipher I did not recognize. Life in Base 717 is claustrophobic. The walls sweat with condensation despite the temperature. There are days I swear I hear footsteps in the ventilation shafts. All the vents are sealed from within. Vasily says it's just the pipes expanding from heat. But I'm not so sure. Last night Yuri awoke screaming. He said he dreamed of a city made of black stone beneath the ice. He described towers that bent in directions the human eye could not follow. He drew a crude map on the wall with charcoal before we could stop him. Turgenev took one look and turned white. He ordered it scrubbed clean. Yuri has since been sedated. It's been 34 days since our last contact with Moscow. We send updates on schedule, but we receive only silence, or rather what I thought was silence. Vasily told me yesterday that something is transmitting on the shortwave bands at 19.432 megahertz, just above the Soviet military cutoff. A whisper, repeating in intervals. Not Russian, not English. Irene says it's closest to Basque, but not quite. It says the same word over and over. Amun-Ra. We're preparing for a deep snow trek to the anomaly tomorrow. I'll be accompanying the professor. I've insisted. Something is wrong here. I feel it in my teeth, in my blood. If this diary is found and I am gone, know that we were sent here not to observe, but to contain. Or perhaps to awaken. Either way, we were not the first, and will not be the last. Captain A. Volkov, Soviet Ground Reconnaissance Division, Special Operation UR-54, Base 717, Antarctica. Dr. Adam Rourke, Translator's Note, January 5th, 2025. Well, I've only skimmed the first few entries, but already I can feel the texture of something strange lying beneath the surface. Something Volkov himself may not have fully understood when he wrote them. At first, the diary reads like any Cold War-era military log, rigid, terse, loaded with procedural detail. But in the margins between the lines, there's an uneasiness that grows like black mold behind a painted wall. There's one moment that sticks with me already, just a small passage. The ice moved in the night. Well, he doesn't elaborate, but I find myself wondering what he meant by that. Seismic shifts, melting and refreezing, or something else entirely. Whatever happened out there, Volkov didn't just record it, he felt it. And now, reading his words over 60 years later, I feel it too. Diary of Captain Alexei Volkov. Entry 2, January 14th, 1962. Location, Polar Outpost, Kovcheg 9, Antarctica. We leave at first light, if the winds permit it. Major Sokolov says we'll travel east-southeast toward Grid 17B, where the anomaly was recorded 3 weeks ago by the long-range magnetometer. That was during the last supply run from Mirny Station, before communications with Moscow became unreliable. He doesn't trust the equipment. They're old, repurposed from submarine detection arrays, but he trusts the numbers. The readings were too clean, too regular. Nature doesn't do symmetry, he said. He keeps calling it the pulse, a faint signal repeating every 91 seconds. Subsonic, non-directional, not a radio frequency. The sort of thing you feel more than you hear. Well, there are 6 of us going. Myself, Sokolov, Kuryalenko, the radio man, Antonov, the mechanic, Isayeva, the geologist, and First Lieutenant Kozlov, our medic and moral compass. A good man and a religious one. He brought a small wooden cross and wears it tucked into his uniform. I do not think the party would approve, but nobody's watching us out here. Or maybe something is. The weather has shifted. Barometric pressure is lower than it should be. There's a strange stillness today. No wind, no creaking ice, just silence. As if the continent feels like it's holding its breath. We spent the morning loading 2 over-snow vehicles. One STZ-5 tractor, modified for cold, and a sleigh-style cargo trailer pulled by a second vehicle. Rations for 10 days. Enough kerosene to bring Stalin back from the dead. Sokolov made us triple-check every seal and valve. And out there, something as small as a cracked fuel line becomes your tombstone. I walked out to the perimeter fence alone before dinner. The dogs wouldn't come with me. They just stared across the ice shelf, ears flat, heads low, tails still. Out there, the horizon never changes. It's like looking into the face of death and seeing only your own reflection. Now, about the base, Kovcheg 9. I suppose I should explain more for whoever reads this, if anyone ever does. Kovcheg 9 isn't an official station, not even on our own maps. It's buried beneath 40 feet of ice and rock, with only the radio mast and vent shafts visible from the air. It was built in 1957 by the Special Reconnaissance Division of the Soviet Navy, supposedly for deep seismic research, though none of us really believe that. There are whispers among the older officers that it was constructed atop something older, that the Americans know about it, that we found something here back in '58 and have been keeping quiet about it ever since. I've heard stories in the mess hall. A drilling team vanished. A man walked back to base 3 days after he was declared frozen and never said a word again. I used to laugh at such stories. Now I'm not so sure. Preparations. Kuryalenko has packed extra copper wire. He says the magnetometer might need a field adjustment. Isayeva insists on bringing ground-penetrating radar equipment, even though it's temperamental in the cold. She says the ice is too clean near Grid 17B. No fractures, no sediment drift. Like someone polished it. Antonov mutters when he works, usually in Ukrainian. He believes we're cursed. He said the ice has memory and it remembers what lies beneath. I told him he was being superstitious. He spat on the snow and didn't answer. Before bed, Kozlov led a quiet prayer for the group. Sokolov didn't stop him. He just stood by the window, staring into the dark, smoking his last cigarette. We leave at 0500. Dr. Adam Rourke, translator's note. January 5th, 2025. It's difficult to describe the feeling that came over me as I read those first two entries. Not just the historical value, which is significant, but the personal tone. How intimate it felt, like overhearing a confession no one was ever meant to hear. Volkov was methodical, clearly educated, but something in his phrasing felt haunted. The location he described matched a shelf near the Shackleton Range. The anomaly. The ice there has always read strangely on our sensors. Denser, older. Some of us joked about buried Nazi bunkers or alien monoliths. I never thought someone had actually been there, let alone that they'd written it down. Well, there were more entries. Diary of Captain Alexei Volkov. Entry 3, January 14th, 1962. En route to Site K-84. Snow began falling not long after we departed base camp. Fine and powdery, carried sideways by winds sharp enough to peel paint. Visibility was patchy from the start. I kept hoping it would pass, but it didn't. We moved in a staggered convoy, 2 tracked transport vehicles, 1 snowcat modified with a reinforced hull for ice boring, and 3 snowmobiles for range scouting. I took the lead with Major Orakov in the second vehicle behind me, silent as ever. It should have been routine. 4 days in, 4 days out. We'd done far worse in the Ural Mountains. But Antarctica isn't the Urals. There's no topography here to orient by, no tree line to gauge distance, just the white and the cold and the sky that never really darkens. Somewhere around hour 6, we lost radio contact with the rear snowmobile. The signal just vanished. We doubled back, 10 minutes tops. Found it still running, partially buried by a wind-blown drift. No driver. Private Petrov had vanished. Tracks led away from the vehicle, half blotted by the wind. He just walked, not stumbled, not run, just walked. About 70 meters north, his footsteps stopped. I mean, not tapered off, stopped, as if it had been plucked straight up into the sky. We circled the area and shouted, fired signal flares. Nothing. No blood, no broken ice, no sign of struggle. We were 50 kilometers from the nearest crevasse field. There were no cliffs, no predator tracks, nothing. Orlov stood over the last print and said nothing for almost a full minute. Then he looked at me and muttered, "We don't speak of this in the report." We tied a red flag to the abandoned snowmobile and left it there. Well, the man was shaken but followed orders. That night we made camp against a ridge of buried ice rock. I couldn't sleep, not because of the cold, I've endured worse, but because something was wrong with the quiet. The wind didn't howl, it whispered. And I swear just past midnight I saw something, some shape, move across the snowfield, far off against the moon glow. It moved too slowly for a man, too deliberately for the wind. No one else saw it, or if they did, no one said a word. Entry 4. January 15th, 1962. Arrival at Site K84. We reached the coordinates at 0630. The sun never fully sets this time of year, but the sky seemed dimmer, grey, like the colour of old bones. The building was exactly where Command said it would be. No markings, no flag, just a squat, windowless structure half swallowed by the ice. Concrete reinforced with metal. Soviet design, but off, too angular, too low to the ground. No signs of previous habitation, no radio beacon, no power. It shouldn't have existed. I walked the perimeter first. The walls were ice-pitted, but intact. One steel door sealed with a thick lever. We had to torch the hinges. Inside, a narrow entry corridor leading into a central chamber. Concrete walls, frost slick and bare. The cold was even deeper here, unnatural, as if the heat couldn't touch the air inside. Several of the crew remarked that their watches slowed by a few seconds. I told them it was battery degradation from the temperature, but my watch had slowed too. At the far end of the main room, we found a hatch, heavy, marked in Cyrillic, but with phrasing I didn't recognize. Not military standard, it was almost poetic. To descend is to return. To return is to awaken. Orlov stared at it for a long time, then said we'd open it tomorrow after setting up the instruments. As I write this, the men are eating, talking in low voices. No one mentions our missing private. No one mentions the tracks that stopped. I don't think they're pretending. I think they're already forgetting. Oh, and something else. Turgenev says he heard music coming from inside the building before we opened the door. A kind of humming, like an old phonograph or choir. He asked if we'd left a radio beacon here years ago. We hadn't. Tomorrow, we open the hatch. Volkov out. Entry 4 continued. January 15th, 1962. Location, the structure, Sector 6. We didn't descend today. During the night something happened. Now, I hesitate to write it down because it sounds like the babbling of a man going mad from cold and hunger. But I swear on the memory of my father, what I'm about to record is true, or at least felt true in the moment. At approximately 0300 hours, Lieutenant Orlov, who had taken first watch, came crashing into the room, gun in hand, eyes wide with something between terror and disbelief. He'd seen a man walking near the tree line, except there is no tree line, only ice, endless ice. At first we thought it was a hallucination brought on by stress, but then we noticed the prints, human-sized, barefoot, no boots, leading away from our perimeter, out toward the southern ice shelf. And they just stopped, mid-stride, as if the figure had vanished into the air or sunk beneath the snow. But there was no depression, no break in the crust. Just one last footstep, perfectly shaped, the toes splayed slightly outward, and then nothing. Orlov refused to sleep the rest of the night. Neither did I, if I'm honest. We agreed to delay the descent into the structure for a few hours to regroup. The men needed rest and daylight, if such a thing could be said to exist in this place, where the sun hovers at the edge of the world like a dim eye behind clouds. At 1000 hours, the snow began falling heavily. We waited it out, making small repairs to the generator sled and double-checking our instruments. By 1400 hours, the snowfall ceased. The wind died, eerily so, and it was decided we would go in. Entry 5, later that day. Inside the structure, level 1. We made our descent at 1500 hours. The entrance was like a mouth, dark, rimmed with old ice and twisted steel. At first we assumed it had been part of a Cold War outpost, some NATO construction perhaps, abandoned or covered up. But as we moved deeper in, it became clear. This was not Western nor Soviet, and I'm not even sure it was human. The stairs were steep, cut from some dark greenish black stone, smooth, almost polished. No ice formed on them despite the cold, though, and that's what struck me first. It was warmer inside than outside, but there were no heat sources. The air was dry, stale, and held a faint metallic tang, like old blood on a rusted bayonet. The hallway at the base of the stairs was long. Too long. I can't explain it. We walked for what felt like 20 minutes, and yet when we returned later to check our path, the distance was half that. Antonov checked his pacing. Petrov measured it with cord. Both yielded different results. The hallway changes, or perhaps we do. At the end of the corridor stood a door, or something like one. It had no hitches, no handle. A circle perfectly formed, rimmed in a faint blue glow. I thought of plasma, or of reactor chambers, but the Geiger counter said nothing. No radiation, no power signature. Just a pulse, low, almost subliminal. You can't hear it with your ears, you feel it, in your jaw, in your spine. We camped just beyond the door. The interior chamber is large, almost cathedral-like, curved ceiling, strange markings on the walls. I would call them writing, but no language I know, no Cyrillic, no Latin, more like grooves etched by some kind of organic process. They shimmer faintly when touched. Belova touched one. She flinched back, like it had burned her, but there was no mark. She wouldn't say what she'd seen, only that it was wrong. Translator's note, Dr. Adam Rourke. January 6th, 2025. Well, these symbols Volkov mentions, I've seen them, not in person, but in scanned fragments from a classified Soviet research dump leaked in 1997. I dismissed them as elaborate forgeries at the time. But now, reading Volkov's entries and seeing the sketches he'd made, one included at the bottom of this page, I feel a deepening unease. They're identical to what K510 archives labeled Glyph Set 4A, pre-Hyperborean script, unverified. Now that term, Hyperborean, has a strange history in fringe archaeology, mostly nonsense, but when viewed through the lens of actual polar exploration, the pattern grows harder to ignore. Well, their descent has begun. Now, I fear where it leads. Episode 2. Antechamber. Dr. Adam Rourke, Translator's Note. January 6th, 2025. Well, I spent the last few nights reviewing the same 5 pages of Volkov's journal. They don't change, at least I don't think they do. I find myself reading them as if for the first time each time. Familiar phrases twist on the second reading. Details seem misplaced. I even marked one line in pencil that now isn't there at all. Well, I've begun misplacing things. My thermos, a thermal glove, my USB stick. God, they always reappear in the place I first looked. It's nothing dramatic, just enough to make me question myself. More troubling is that I've started dreaming in Russian. Well, I speak it conversationally, but in the dreams I'm fluent. Not just fluent, I'm thinking in it. Last night I was underground in a black hallway, listening to something breathe behind a steel door, and I whispered, "Oni slishat nas." They hear us. I woke with a nosebleed and a strong smell of ozone in the air. There's no electrical issue in my quarters, I checked. The dreams don't feel like dreams, they feel like memory. Oh, and the people he mentions are no longer the ones who started the mission with him. Well, I continue translating. Diary of Captain Alexei Volkov. Entry 6, January 16th, 1962. Location, substructure interior. I spent most of the last 12 hours trying to reason through what I've seen. I keep telling myself that exhaustion and cold are exaggerating the effect. I remind myself that architecture can be deceptive underground, that spatial intuition falters in the absence of the sky. I know what I felt. I know what I measured. The interior of the structure is larger than the exterior, measurably so. Our initial estimates, based on pacing and cable length, suggest that the main corridor extends over 70 meters. Yet the building above ground, the entry hall we found in the snow, could not have been more than 30 by 30 maximum. And the geometry, it isn't consistent. At first we marked our path carefully with chalk and line, standard procedure. But on our third circuit we passed a branching hallway we hadn't noticed before. Ivan swears it was not there. The air inside is warmer, but not by much, enough to fog our breath inconsistently. There are no heat sources, no evidence of energy use, and yet the walls, still that seamless black stone, feel faintly warm to the touch. Yuri tried to make light of it, said maybe we'd discovered some ancient geothermal station built by a forgotten civilization. Oleg didn't laugh. He just stared at the wall like he was trying to see something in it. He's the most tightly wound of the team, but I noticed his hands trembling slightly when he reached for his canteen. Well, we've taken photographs. They don't come out right. The flash reflects too strongly, or not at all. Details blur at the edges, and in one Boris appears twice, from two different angles as if the shutter caught two timelines. Probably a fault in the film or the lens. It has to be. I asked Boris to review the images himself, and he wouldn't look. Said they gave him a headache. The deeper we go, the more our instruments lose reliability. Compasses spin, watches lag, even our voices carry strangely. Echoes don't return correctly. Sometimes they seem to come back faster, too fast for the space, or at the wrong pitch. We agreed to set up a small camp in a rounded chamber near what appears to be a central corridor junction. We took shifts sleeping, with Ivan on watch first. I woke up to him calling for Andrei. Andrei was gone. We searched, no signs of forced entry, no drag marks, no equipment missing. His flashlight and personal radio were neatly placed by his bedroll, as if he'd simply stood up and walked off. But the most disturbing part is what we found when we traced the corridor closest to our camp. About 30 meters down, the line we'd marked, our guideline rope, was severed. No, not frayed, clean, as if cut with surgical precision. It lay on the floor in two pieces, perfectly aligned, the severed ends not even curled from tension. The chalk marks we'd made along the wall were wiped clean, in one place replaced with a single, unfamiliar symbol. Like a spiral with branching lines, almost like a nervous system. Oleg refused to go further. Said he'd heard something moving in the stone. Not behind it, but in it. I told him to stay put, and I took Yuri and Boris with me to sweep the passage. We found nothing, but my boots kept slipping, though the floor was dry. I felt like gravity was subtly misaligned. The ceiling seemed to tilt, but only when I looked at it directly. When I turned my head slightly, it appeared level. When we returned, Oleg was seated on his bedroll, whispering to himself in Belarusian. I know a little, just enough to understand fragments. Something about mouths in the cold and dreams that remember you. I recorded that part in my field journal. Well, I don't even know if he knew we were there. Well, we've lost Andre, that is clear. Whether he wandered off, fell into some unseen shaft, or something else happened, I cannot say. But morale is deteriorating. Trust is thinning. And worse, I've begun to forget things. Nothing major, just little things. I misnamed Yuri twice today. I found my field knife in a pocket I never use. I wrote the date wrong in this entry 3 times before correcting it. I tell myself it's stress, fatigue, maybe low oxygen, but we've been in worse situations before without this kind of confusion. We will continue tomorrow. I want to mark the deeper junctions, perhaps find a lower level. If we do not locate Andre soon, I will recommend extraction. Assuming we can find our way out. Captain A. Volkov. Dr. Adam Rourke, Translator's Note. January 7th, 2025. Well, this is weird. I don't know what it is, but it's getting harder to separate the entries from my own thoughts. I'd meant to transcribe Volkov's 6th entry this morning, but when I opened my notes, I found the pages were already typed out. Honestly, I don't remember writing them. The timestamps on my laptop say I worked through the night. I have no memory of doing so. I've also begun dreaming in Russian. It feels like that already happened yesterday. Well, God, I'm not so sure of anything right now. Anyway, my dreams, it's not phrases I've read, but conversations that feel familiar. There's a voice I recognize, though I can't place it. In one dream, it asked me if I'd look behind the wall. I woke up with blood on my knuckles. I must have scratched myself in my sleep, though I don't recall having a nightmare. I've noticed something else. The walls of the lab feel too close lately. The angles in the hallway outside my bunk don't meet the way I remember them. I caught myself counting the tiles on the ceiling 3 times this morning. Each time the number changed. I think I need some sleep. Maybe I need to stop reading this diary for a while. But I know I won't. Rourke. Diary of Captain Alexei Volkov. Entry 6. January 16th, 1962. Location, substructure interior. Well, Levchenko is gone. There was no sound in the night, no struggle, no cry for help. Just mourning and an absence. His sleeping bag was zipped shut, tight and undisturbed, but empty. His boots were lined up beside it, socks still tucked inside, the way he always arranged them before sleep. His pack sat nearby, untouched. He had not taken his gloves, and his ration tin remained sealed. We searched the corridor outside the chamber, spreading out in pairs, calling his name down each branching passage. No footprints in the dust, no sign of forced movement. Only the usual subtle currents of stale air, the sense of being inside something that's not asleep, but waiting. I did a head count twice, then a third time, as if I'd miscounted. Petrov said in a low voice, "He's still here, just not where we are." There was a pause after that. No one responded. I should be alarmed, furious, but instead I feel dulled, like I've been walking through water for days. It takes effort to form thoughts clearly now. Caught myself forgetting simple Russian phrases. I paused yesterday, staring at my own name in the diary, unable to recognize the letters for a full 10 seconds. Kuryakin is withdrawn. He sits with his back to the wall, eyes moving over the ceiling patterns, muttering under his breath. I caught a few words. Not geometric, still moving, and we're not under ice anymore. Antonov was the only one to admit he saw anything during the night. He waited until the afternoon to speak, when the light from our electric lanterns began to dim. He said he woke around 0200 to relieve himself and noticed movement in the hallway beyond the arch. He said he saw Levchenko standing, not walking, just standing, further down the corridor, barely illuminated by the light spilling from our chamber. Antonov called to him but got no response. Claimed Levchenko then turned and stepped around a corner, but when Antonov followed, the hallway was empty. He says he searched for several minutes, confused, thinking Levchenko was playing some kind of a prank. He wasn't wearing shoes, Antonov added at the end. I remember because I could hear his bare feet on the stone. The corridor floor is dust-covered basalt. You can't make a noise on it with bare feet. We questioned Antonov repeatedly, but his answers didn't change. I believed him less because of what he said and more because of how it had changed him. He hasn't spoken since. He won't meet our eyes. We've blocked the entrance to the chamber with crates from our sleds and the aluminum frame of the communications rig. It's symbolic more than anything else. Whatever happened to Levchenko didn't come through the entry. Petrov suggested, half joking, that perhaps it came through the walls. The strange thing is, no one laughed. We discovered something new this evening while pacing the halls. A chamber with markings along the walls that don't correspond to any known language. I hesitate to call them symbols. They're more like shadows of symbols, ghost impressions faint as old frost. They seem to change shape depending on where you stand, how you light them. Antonov refused to enter the room. Petrov did, however. He touched one of the symbols and said it felt cold, colder than the stone around it and smoother, like glass that had never been touched by hands. He traced it with his fingers, then looked at me and said, "It's not carved. It's not even in the wall." I asked what he meant. He just shook his head and walked out. There are no working clocks anymore. They stopped 2 days ago, but we didn't notice until this morning. My watch reads 14:12. It's read 14:12 all day. I actually think it's night now, but we can't tell for sure. The only way to measure time is how long the lantern batteries last, and even they seem to be fading faster than they should. We brought spares, but they're not helping. My handwriting is changing. I don't remember deciding to alter it, but I flip back a few pages and it's undeniably different. Tighter, more vertical, with certain flourishes I never use. I'm now writing some letters in a style that resembles pre-revolution calligraphy. I haven't seen those forms since Academy archives, and yet, when I write quickly, my hand defaults to them. I will continue documenting everything. I must assume I'm still thinking clearly enough to be of use. But it feels like we're being documented as well, as though this place is keeping its own records, watching and remembering. Whatever took Levchenko, if it took him, if it even was him, it didn't need doors. No, it needed silence, stillness, a moment when no one was watching. I fear we will give it many more. Volkov. Dr. Adam Rourke. Field Recorder Transcript. January 7th, 2025, 11:42 p.m. Excerpt from audio log number 22. Levchenko's boots were still in place. Zipped sleeping bag, no footprints. The only disturbance was the altar. The fluorescent lights above my desk flickered sharply, just once, but enough to make me stop recording. It's an older research trailer, and the Antarctic weather plays hell on the grid. Still, the timing was unpleasant. Coincidental, of course. I rewound the recording to review the phrasing. When I hit play, I noticed something that hadn't been there before. My voice. It was still me, but flatter. I don't know, too calm. The cadence was wrong. The word alter, I didn't remember stressing it like that. It came out low, almost guttural, like it came from deeper in the chest. A different vocal register entirely. Well, I checked the Russian source again. Something made me glance back to the phrase describing the object in the center of the chamber. Volkov had used the word jetvenik. Altar, yes, but not quite. The root implies sacrifice offering, something more ritualistic, more intentional. Just beneath that line, nestled between a smudge of graphite and a fleck of ink, was a mark. A glyph, curved and symmetrical, like an eye drawn from memory. I remember seeing it there before, but it's in my own handwriting. I traced it unconsciously, the same way you might doodle on a napkin without realizing. I'm attaching a photo of the mark here. We'll cross-reference with linguistics later. For now, I'm taking a walk. I need air. Or whatever counts as air when it's minus 38 degrees centigrade and the sky won't look you in the eye. Rourke. Diary of Captain Alexei Volkov. Entry 7. January 17th, 1962. Location, primary chamber, undesignated structure Delta 01. I do not know how long we walked. My watch has stopped again. No, not due to cold. The gears turned, but the hands refused to move. We continued deeper, down corridors that subtly curved, yet never sloped. The floor never dipped, but my legs ached as if descending a mountain. The walls bore the same textureless grey, like poured stone smoothed by thought rather than hand. And then the hallway widened. We entered the chamber. I cannot describe it fully, though I will try, if only to convince myself it was real. It's spherical in shape, vast, perhaps 200 meters across, but that's a guess born of panic, not measurement. There were no visible seams, no junctions, no rivets, no transitions between wall and ceiling and floor, just a continuous curvature that tricked the eye. We stood at what might be called a balcony, a narrow shelf of floor suspended partway up the interior curvature. Below us, stretching down into impossible depth, was a smooth black floor that appeared more like a liquid surface than a solid one. Not glossy, reflective in a way that defied light, but not shape. In the center of it, rising like a monolith from the middle of a pond, was the object. Black, towering, perhaps 15 meters high. Its surface was flawless, but it shimmered subtly as if it rejected light rather than absorbed it. Cast no shadow, yet appeared darker than anything around it. A paradox wrapped in metal, or not metal. It looked like a cocoon, or an altar, or a sealed sarcophagus built by something that has never died. We stood in silence. Even Sokolov didn't speak. No one dared take a step closer. Then Mikhailov began to weep. Not loudly, just a single sound, like a choked breath drawn through clenched teeth. I turned and found him staring at the obelisk with wide, tear-lined eyes. I asked what was wrong, and he shook his head, slowly, mechanically. "She's in there," he said. When I asked who, he simply replied, "The woman from the radio." There is no woman. We've not heard any voices through the comms. Mikhailov had not previously mentioned anything like this. I ordered him to sit, but he kept walking, one step at a time, down a ramp none of us had even noticed. It had not been there when we entered, or perhaps we simply had not seen it. It unfurled from the curve of the wall like a tongue sliding out to taste the air. Gerasimov grabbed Mikhailov by the shoulder and tried to restrain him. They both stopped halfway down. Then the surface beneath them rippled, just once, barely perceptible, and both men staggered back. Gerasimov reported a sensation of static in his teeth. He said the floor felt like thinking. Mikhailov would not elaborate. He simply repeated that she was calling to him and then fell silent. We retreated. It wasn't cowardice, it was consensus. None of us wished to be near that object longer than necessary. Back in the forward chamber, we took a vote, except for Mikhailov, who sat curled on the floor, whispering to himself. We agreed to continue the survey tomorrow. The men are restless and food supplies are low. We will begin marking a return path in the morning. But part of me doubts we'll find the entrance again. I made a final observation before I closed the diary tonight. In every direction inside the chamber, there were faint hairline grooves in the walls, symmetrical patterns like inscriptions or machine scoring. Some of the lines pulsed slightly, barely perceptible, like veins. I followed one set of grooves with my flashlight. They led directly to the black monolith. Well, if it is a machine, it is asleep. If it's a tomb, it is waiting. And if it's alive, then it knows we're here. I'm closing this entry now. I cannot sleep, but I will try. When I close my eyes, I see the chamber again, and the grooves, and the shapes beneath the black surface that didn't cast reflections, but did seem to move. A. Volkov. Episode 3. The Echoing Cold. Dr. Adam Rourke, January 8th, 2025, 4:11 a.m. Well, I had the dream again. It wasn't like before. There was no setting, no light, just pressure. I had a voice. I knew it was Volkov, somehow. He stood across from me in a space that didn't have distance. I could see his lips move, but the sound came from behind me, or maybe through me. I didn't understand the language. It might not even have been Russian. I woke up sweating, my tongue felt swollen. I think I bit it in my sleep. Oh, yeah, I found this note just now, folded into the diary. It's in my own handwriting, but I don't remember writing it. They are behind the ice. No punctuation, no context, just that. I know it's my handwriting, but it feels wrong. My letter R looks slightly off, like I was copying it, or my hand wasn't entirely mine. I checked the time. It's 4:11 a.m. now, but the sun is up. I could have sworn it was night when I lay down. My laptop clock says 9:38 a.m. My watch is dead. God, don't know what's going on. The heaters were off when I woke. The temperature dropped below zero in the lab. My breath fogged in the air, but the generator log shows no interruption. But I checked it 3 times. I've tried to transcribe Volkov's next entry 4 times now. Each time, the sentences changed slightly. One version I used a word I had to look up. Phosphine. Don't know why Volkov would have known that word. Well, the original Russian is still the same, I think. I'm going to take a break. Step outside. I need some fresh air. Diary of Captain Alexei Volkov. Entry 8. January 18th, 1962. Location: substructure, branching tunnels. We have left the antechamber behind. The spherical room was a kind of threshold. I feel that now. What lies beyond it, I don't know how to describe it even to myself. There are no maps to guide us now, no plans, just tunnels that seem to branch and curve with no architectural logic, smooth as glass in places and lined with that matte black stone elsewhere, still without tool marks, still wrong. Pavlichenko swore the floor felt soft underfoot. Ivanov claimed the ceiling pulsed slightly when no one was looking at it. We are not all experiencing the same structure. The air is heavier here, warmer in patches, like we've entered a different thermal system. It makes no sense. The geothermal activity in this region has never been recorded, and yet some walls exhale heat, Others are so cold they cause our breath to freeze mid-air and drop like glass beads. We split into 2 groups for an hour. I led mine down a narrow throat of corridor that opened into a vaulted space. Possibly natural, though I doubt anything here is. The walls were rippling like light underwater. When I reached to touch the surface, it was dry, smooth and solid. When I turned to ask Ivanov if he saw it too, I realized I was alone. When he reappeared seconds later from the opposite side of the room, looking dazed, he asked me why I'd walked away without saying anything. But we had never separated. The fragment was embedded in a column at the far end of another corridor. A black shard, smooth, curved like a broken blade or a splintered piece of armor. It was faintly warm to the touch, but only for me. The others said it was cold. I told them not to touch it again. When I held it in my hand, I saw a flicker like an after-image imprinted behind the eyes. A hallway, a vault, a screaming face. None of it mine. None of it now. I put the shard in my rucksack. I don't know why. I didn't even remember doing it until hours later when we stopped to eat and I felt through the pack lining. God, I'm certain it wasn't that large when I first picked it up. Well, time is slipping. Kostin claims we've only been walking for 2 hours. Ivanov insists it's been closer to 12. My own watch reads 3:57 and has for some time. No one recalls sleeping or eating. The logbook we've been keeping as a group, our hard copy backup, is now missing entire sections. Not torn out, just unwritten. Pages filled with our own handwriting, but no content. Sentences that begin and trail off. One page just reads, "The cold is the memory." Pavlichenko admits to writing it. He says he doesn't remember why. He asked me earlier what Levchenko's first name was. I couldn't answer. I've known Levchenko for 5 years. We trained together in Murmansk. We fought together in Karelia. I remember the shape of his voice, the way he rolled his cigarettes too tight. But his first name, it's gone. It's missing. Like it was never real to begin with. I overheard Ivanov speaking to himself when he thought no one was listening. His voice was low, but the cadence was strange. Measured, rhythmic, like reciting something. Not Russian, not anything I recognize. When I confronted him, he smiled. Not nervously, not defensively. Like he knew something I didn't. And he told me, there's no way back through what was. And he asked me what my first name was. At night, or what we assume to be night, some of the corridors echo, but not from us. We've stopped marking our path, because the marks vanish behind us. Something's wrong with the walls. They remember. This might be the last entry I write before we try to return, if there is a return. I'll keep the fragment with me. It feels, important. Familiar in a way I cannot explain. Like a splinter from a tooth I never knew I had. If I hold it long enough, I feel calm. I feel listened to. I feel like I'm almost able to remember. Well, I must sleep. Dr. Rourke, January 8th, 2025, 11:42 p.m. Lab 3, McMurdo Station. Trying to unwind after a long day. I couldn't sleep, not after reading Volkov's 8th entry. There's something about the glyph. I couldn't get it out of my head, so I started sketching. Mostly from memory, not trying to replicate it exactly, but when I compared it to the original in his diary, mine wasn't the same. Not just different, more complete, more intricate. I turned the page and there it was again. A more elaborate version traced out in pencil. I don't remember drawing that one. And it's my handwriting, yes. My line weight. But the glyph, it's almost as if it evolved, like it finished itself when I wasn't looking. I scanned back through my notes, found a second copy, page 14, top corner. I don't even remember opening that page today. I showed it to the station's linguist this morning as a curiosity. She thought it looked vaguely proto-Elamite, but inverted. Well, she couldn't explain why it unsettled her, just that she felt a headache behind her left eye while looking at it. Said it reminded her of cave paintings she'd seen in Chile as a grad student, ones that weren't supposed to exist. I've shut the journal now, closed it, tucked it away, but I still feel it, like it's burned into the backs of my eyelids. I wonder if you heard that. There's something in the lab. Not someone, something. No, nothing. Probably just the autoclave cycling or... Okay. Alright. That's enough for now. Diary of Captain Alexei Volkov, Entry 9. January 19th, 1962. Location? Unknown. We have not seen the sun in... I don't know. Thought I could track the days by the logs, but the ink in my watch has bled and the hands have stopped. My wrist is raw where I keep winding it. The radio is dead. It isn't damaged, no wires severed, no frostbite inside the housing. Just silent. The batteries are full, but there's nothing, not even static. Kirov spent the morning dismantling and rebuilding the unit piece by piece in the far corridor, away from the others. When he returned, he didn't speak, just handed me his notepad. It looked like a full report, pages of neat handwriting in what resembled Cyrillic. I could almost hear the words in my head as I looked at it, but I couldn't understand a single one. Not Russian, not anything. I showed it to Vasin. He just nodded and muttered, "It's beautiful." Well, it's not beautiful. It curls at the edges when I try to read it, like the letters are alive and want to twist out of my grasp. The walls have changed. They pulse faintly when we're not looking. I confirmed this. I drew a line in chalk, a single white hash where the passage forks near the thermal vent. When we came back, less than an hour later, it had moved. No, not smudged, moved. 3 meters down the wall. Clean, precise. Nothing bleeds here. Not even time. Private Antonov, we all remember him, I think, started using different names for each of us today. He called me Egorov, called Vasin Commissar. When I asked him why, he said, "Because that's who you were yesterday." Well, I laughed. He didn't. The others don't talk much now. Even when they do, I can't always follow. There's a lag, like the words reach my ears too late, or too early. Sometimes I respond and only realize afterward that no one had said anything at all. With the morning ration, I caught myself eating with my gloves still on. I didn't taste the food. Later, I found one of my own reports tucked into the side of my sleeping bag. The handwriting was mine, dated January 21st, but it's only the 19th. And I swear I don't remember writing it. Well, I won't read it yet. Kirov burned his diary last night, claimed it was mirroring him, that it copied his thoughts before he wrote them. I didn't stop him. I wanted to, but I didn't. We tried to mark our path back to the antechamber. Red trail markers, plastic with metal hooks, standard issue. But the path back wasn't the path we'd taken in. The walls had shifted. Vasin said, "It's like being inside a lung." I had a thought earlier, but it's gone now. It was important. Maybe about the fragment, or Levchenko, or the surface. But it slipped from me like breath in cold air, visible for a moment, then nothing. I'm beginning to worry we're becoming parts of this place. Kirov whispered to me last night. He thought I was asleep. He said, We didn't find this place. It called to us. I told him to shut up, but I don't think he heard me. Well, there is something else too. I hesitate to write it. Sometimes, briefly, I see another version of us reflected in the black glass of the walls. Well, we're older, dirtier, our faces are thinner, our eyes hollow. But we are standing still, as if waiting, watching. I don't know how long they've been there, but every time I pass, they're a little closer to the surface. I looked at my reflection today and didn't recognize the face. I don't know if this is still me. January 9th, 2025. Audio recording transcript. Fragmented log, number 17. Timestamp indeterminate. Okay, this is Dr. Adam Rourke. Mid-morning, I think. I've had some difficulty keeping track today. Woke up just after sunrise, or what passes for it down here. There was frost on the inside of the lab windows. I swear I turned the heater on before bed. I found more pages, not in the original journal, no. These were loose, folded, water damaged, but here's the strange part. They're in my satchel, the one I use when I go out with the radar gear. I don't remember putting them there. I don't remember seeing them before. They're written in the same hand, Volkov's. But the paper is wrong. It's not the same kind of stock. There's a faint seal in the corner, some kind of raised embossing, almost like an insignia, but it's too faded to make out. When I started reading them aloud to record, my voice... something about it. Well, I stopped the tape, replayed it. I sound hoarse, like I've been chain-smoking, or like I'm someone else entirely. I tried to email the scans to my supervisor in McMurdo, but my connection cut out the moment I attached the files. Nothing else dropped, just the data transmission. When I deleted the attachment, everything came back. Well, this is becoming a pattern. These entries don't want to leave the ice, or maybe something doesn't want them to. One of the pages had only a single phrase, circled again and again in black graphite, in Russian. I know who you are now. Well, I didn't translate that. I read it, instinctively, like it was my own language. Volkov's diary, January 20th, 1962. Disjointed entry. The walls echo differently today. Not with our voices, but with things that nearly are. We speak and there's an aftersound. Too slow, too wet. Levchenko is still missing. No one speaks of it anymore. I can't recall his voice. I picture his face and see someone else. I woke this morning with frost in my eyelashes and a phrase in my mind I do not remember learning. Ophidan Helvor. Oh, it feels like a name. It burns the tongue even in thought. Karpov began writing a log in Russian today. I looked over his shoulder and saw nothing but slashing curves and tight spirals. Well, they looked familiar. I told him it wasn't Russian. But he stared at me like I was speaking a lie, then asked me who I was. I started to answer. I didn't know. He's asleep now. We all are, even when our eyes are open. The machines do not work. The Geiger counter ticks faintly, but not at us. It reacts to the walls. The power packs are drained. Even the backup radio just hums, like a throat cleared endlessly. I see movement in the edges of my vision. I think it's us, earlier versions or later ones. We are the echoes of ourselves. The tunnels have grown, I'm certain of it. There's a second stairwell behind the first. It wasn't there before, but Karpov says it always was. But I found another journal today in my own handwriting. Different ink. Earlier entries than I remember writing. I flipped it to the last page. There's a drawing, a structure. Familiar, wrong. Above it, a line of script I don't recognize, but I can read it. They are behind the ice. Dr. Rourke, later that evening. I didn't write that note. The one I found in my pocket this morning. Same handwriting, mine, but different pen, and it says, "Don't go down again. Let them sleep." I'm almost sure I remember writing it, but the memory is like something glimpsed through fog. God, I don't trust the mirrors in here. I saw myself blink, but I hadn't moved. Volkov's diary, entry 10, January 19th, 1962. Continued. Location, unknown depth beneath ice shelf. I do not know if this is the second entry today or the third. I've written the date again because I no longer trust the pages that came before. Something in my mind is softening, fraying, like rope rubbed against stone. We are deep now, deeper than we intended, deeper than any drill chart or glaciological model can account for. Yet we walk, and still the passages stretch onward. There are 5 of us now, I think. Kolyadin insists there are 6. He took a piece of coal and drew faces in the frost of the corridor wall this morning. 5 human, 1 not. I asked who the last was, and he said, "You know him. He was always with us." Then he scraped it away with the back of his glove and would say no more. Our path through the tunnels has grown stranger, organic in shape like burrows or vascular channels. There is a condensation on the walls now, warm and faintly metallic to the tongue. We no longer check watches. They stopped 2 days ago. Levchenko's was an analog, old, reliable. Even it ticks without movement. Its hand stuck at 11:47 no matter when you look. We found more markings, not glyphs, not the angular script of the surface, but indentations in the stone itself. Concave spirals, shallow bowls with tiny hair-thin cuts that branch outward in fractal patterns. They glow slightly when we approach, or perhaps we imagine this. Sorokin tried to take a rubbing, but the paper blistered. There's an awareness in this place, the way sound travels or doesn't, the way shadows lean toward us rather than away. Once I turned to speak to Kolyadin and found him already facing me, lips moving, mouthing what I was about to say. Not an echo, a prediction. Sleep is impossible, not from cold or fear, but because of the noise, a low-frequency thrumming that seems to resonate inside the bones. Goryanov says he can feel it behind his eyes, like a migraine without pain. I've begun to hum along with it without realizing. We are not the first. That is clear now. Twice today we passed things embedded in the walls, shells of suits or bodies encased in the ice rock. Not Soviet, not modern. One bore symbols I could not recognize, interlocking loops carved into a shoulder plate of something like bone or ivory. The figure inside was not human. Its limbs were too long, its face hidden behind a cracked helm. When I blinked, its position had changed slightly. I said nothing, and later, when we passed it again, it was gone. I believe we're walking in loops. All the tunnels are moving around us. Our trail markers vanish after an hour. Ropes are useless, stretched taut in one direction, and when we follow them back, they end in walls. We no longer speak of escape. We don't even ask what the mission was. There was something about radar or energy readings. We came because of a signal, but I cannot remember its sound. There are thoughts in my mind that are not mine. Memories of a city of black stone beneath a boiling sky, of towers that grow like coral, of beings that drift, enormous and slow, singing names in tones that melt metal. I do not know where I learned these images. I see them when I close my eyes. They are beautiful and wrong. This place does not want us here, or perhaps it wants us exactly here. Kolyadin sits in the corner now, smiling with tears on his face. He holds a fragment of something, some device or relic. It pulses with a dim red glow, and he murmurs to it like a lover. I will not stop him. We have no orders that apply anymore. I write this not for command, not for history, but for myself. If I am still myself. If I do not remember my name tomorrow, let these pages serve as my anchor. Let them remind me. I am Captain Alexei Volkov. I was born in Minsk. I served the Soviet Navy. I had a sister named Irina. I am human. I must keep writing that. I must believe it. Because there are moments now when I see my reflection in the frost, and it does not move when I do. Tomorrow, we descend again. There is another chamber. We hear it breathing. God help us. A. Volkov. Audio log, January 10th, 2025, 8:12 p.m. Well, this might be my last recording for a while. At least that's the plan. I'm taking a break. Something's off. The diary, it's not just memory gaps anymore. I've started dreaming in Russian. I'm not fluent, well, wasn't. I'm also forgetting things. Names, dates. God, I poured coffee this morning and found the cup still full 5 hours later. My notes have started looping. I found the phrase, "there behind the ice," written in margin 6 times. In my own handwriting. I don't remember doing that. Oh, I'm locking the diary away. Cabinet 3, top drawer. Key stays in my pocket. January 11th, 2025, 5:43 a.m. I awoke before dawn. The lab was silent, too silent. I reached for my coffee, then realized I didn't make any. But the mug was already warm. Sitting beside it, Volkov's diary, open to a page I don't recall translating. And the ink is fresh. January 11th, 2025, 6:12 a.m. The key's still in my pocket. The cabinet is still locked, but the book was open. The page is one I haven't seen. I read it. Of course I read it. I couldn't help it. And now the translation, 3 full paragraphs, is in my notebook, in my handwriting. I don't remember writing it. The glyphs are humming. Well, not audibly, but when I look at them, I feel a resonance, like pressure behind the eyes. I think I understand more of them now. It's not linguistic, it's spatial, like each one is a door. January 11th, 2025, afternoon. Lights flickered again, 3 times, always when I was rereading a specific passage about the walls flexing around the team. Temperature drop in Lab B. Thermostat untouched. Found a second page in the printer tray, typed. First sentence, you must go deeper. The printer's offline and no recent print history. January 11th, 2025, 10:47 p.m. I'm not alone in the lab. I don't know how to prove that. I haven't seen anyone, but sometimes when I glance toward the whiteboard, there's movement in the reflection. Nothing's there when I turn around. Nothing ever is. But I've started hearing it. Like breath, a slow intake behind me, always just behind me. Damn. I thought the diary was an object, but it's not, it's a process. Volkov's diary, entry 11, January 20th, 1962. I must be more careful now. The others have begun watching me, curiously as if I might become the next to slip. Perhaps I already have. We've been in the lower levels for, 3 days? 4? I no longer trust my wristwatch, nor the ticking metronome of the rations. The days seem too long, the nights too brief, and still we press forward. I remember the warmth of the campfire back at the surface, but cannot picture anyone's face from then. This morning, or what we called morning, Sokolov announced that he would hear the walls speaking. We just finished mapping a corridor that doubled back on itself, an impossible topology, like we were walking in a folded ribbon of space, when he froze. His eyes lost focus, as though straining to hear something beneath the silence, and then he said, "They are guiding us through the static." Sokolov has always been the quiet one, reliable, a crack marksman, I think, the kind of soldier you want beside you in a crisis. But now he looks toward every junction with expectation, head cocked like a dog hearing distant thunder. His lips move when he thinks no one is watching. He swears that through the broken radio's hiss, there are chimes, harmonies like wind chimes tuned to some alien scale. I pressed him to explain what they were telling him. He replied, "We are not intruders. We are being shown the way." That was the moment the team began to fracture. Kaplan mocked him openly, accused him of cracking under pressure. Malenkov remained silent, but avoided Sokolov's gaze. As for myself, I do not know what to believe. I have heard something, a low-frequency vibration perhaps, or a phantom note that resonates at the edge of hearing. It rises in moments of stillness, and the very stone seems to pulse in reply. Later that day, we found the glyph again. It was faint, barely a scratch in the surface of the black stone, but unmistakably the same configuration I copied from the antechamber. An array of interlocking loops with an elongated hexagon, but this time it was accompanied by radial lines. I'd not noticed before. It looked not drawn, but grown, like frost etching itself across glass, or coral forming in silence. Even more unsettling, this one responded. When Malenkov passed his flashlight over the wall, the glyph flickered, like phosphor under ultraviolet light. For a moment, the corridor was bathed in dim blue reflections that didn't align with our beams. The air temperature dropped sharply. Sokolov smiled. "It welcomes us." Personal note, undated. There are moments when I look at the men and I do not know their names. Not just forgetfulness, a complete absence, like the part of my mind that held them has been scooped clean. Once I caught myself rehearsing introductions I should not need. I began writing their names on the inside of my sleeve. I caught Malenkov doing the same. Sokolov has taken a separate path. He insists there's a pattern to the glyphs we've encountered so far. He claimed the latest configuration matched one of the constellations we recorded from the Antarctic sky the night before entering. I thought it was nonsense at first, until I reviewed my own notes. He was correct. 6 points arranged in a spiral that echoes Draco's tale. He has begun marking the walls with chalk to complete the sequence. He does not wait for orders now. He leads. Final entry fragment, written in cramped, urgent handwriting. We followed him. Against better judgment, we followed him. Kaplan refused and returned to the previous chamber. That was 2 hours ago. No, longer. We heard nothing. No call, no sound of boots. The corridor we came from is no longer there. I swear this on my name, my oath, and my reason. The hallway behind us has collapsed inward. Not blocked, not caved in, it's simply gone. Where there was stone, now there is only wall, smooth and untouched, as if no one passed through it at all. Sokolov says we're near the center. We should not be near the center. The air smells faintly of ozone and something older. Salt, maybe, or copper. The sound like clicking stones comes from somewhere below us. The glyph has changed again. I see the spiral now, spiraling inward. The pattern looks unfinished, or waiting. Dr. Rourke, January 11th, 2025. Nighttime. Audio log, unlabeled entry, 2:12 a.m. I dreamt I was inside the glacier again. But it wasn't a glacier, it was breathing, pulsing. I could hear the glyph, not see it, hear it. It had a name, I think. I said it. I shouldn't have said it. I woke with blood on my pillow. My nose, just a trickle, but enough. I checked the time. God, I'd been asleep less than 2 hours. But the diary was back on my desk, open to a new entry. I don't remember unlocking the cabinet. God, I was going to stop. I was. But I turned the page. The shape is not static, it's recursive. The glyph moves through me now. Don't trust what he says next. Digital recorder, test playback, 2:25 a.m. They walked into its thought, not a place, a becoming. We did not break through, we were received. Saw myself leave before I left. If this is happening in real time, then Volkov is still alive. That or I'm not. Volkov's diary, entry 12, January 21st, 1962. The corridor narrowed as we moved east, if east has any meaning down here. The walls no longer resemble carved stone. They feel grown, not organic, but not made either. It's like moving through the lungs of something sleeping. We followed Anton. He walks without hesitation now, though he barely speaks. His eyes track something we cannot see. He led us to a cul-de-sac, at least that's what we thought. But the wall at the end shimmered in a strange light. Not reflected, generated. Then it receded. And what we entered is impossible. A chamber, spherical like the one before, but smaller, maybe 10 meters across. The walls shift, imperceptibly at first, but now clearly. They expand and contract as if breathing. There is no air current. The temperature does not change, but frost grows and melts on the surfaces in a steady rhythm, synchronized with something deeper. We took turns touching the wall. No vibration, no sound, but each man described a pressure in his ears, like altitude sickness. Anton was the first to speak, and he said, "It listens." I asked him who he meant, but he ignored me. He knelt in the center of the room and began mumbling. First, it sounded like Russian, then he switched to something else, something phonetic and pulsing. I recognized some syllables, glyphs I've copied, patterns I've half understood. He chanted until his nose began to bleed, and then he smiled. "It hears me," he said. "We're nearly through." I asked, through what? But his expression made clear he didn't understand the question. Later. The others want to move on. This room makes them uncomfortable, especially Mikhail. He keeps shaking his wristwatch, says it runs backwards when he steps near the center of the chamber. Well, we confirmed it. 4 different watches, all synchronized, shift by seconds or minutes, forward or back, depending on where we stand. I'm beginning to worry I've written this entry before. Some of the lines feel familiar, pre-echoed in my head. I check the earlier pages, nothing matches. Yet I feel déjà vu clinging to each word like mildew. Much later, I think. Anton no longer eats with us. He said food is unnecessary now. His skin is dry and cracking around the mouth. He stares at the breathing wall for hours, whispering. We've lost all contact with the upper tunnels. The signals are dead. Levchenko is still missing, but I no longer trust that he even ever existed. When I say his name, some of the men look at me like I've invented him. I'm writing less in Russian now. When I dream, I see the glyphs clearly, seared into bone, spiraling into black stone. When I wake, I remember none of the language, but my hands ache like I've been writing all night. Last entry of the day. We will press deeper tomorrow. Anton says the next passage will open only if we carry the name forward. I do not know what that means. But tonight, I will sleep in the breathing chamber. Anton says I must. He says, I have been chosen to remember what they forgot. I do not know who they are, but I feel their breath all around me. Dr. Rourke. Audio log, January 12th, 2025. I don't remember falling asleep. I don't remember standing up, walking, or collapsing, but I must have done all three. I woke in the middle of the lab, my back aching, shirt damp with sweat. The lights were out, but the emergency backup strip near the floor cast a faint blue glow. That's when I saw them. My notebooks, arranged in a near-perfect spiral across the tiles, stretching from the storage cabinets to where I lay. Each one open to a different page. Some of them from Volkov, others in my own handwriting, though the words are not always mine. At the center of the spiral, the glyph. Drawn in thick black ink, a variation I don't remember sketching, sharper, more complete. It stares back at me. It breathes. I tried to take a photo. The lens wouldn't focus. Every shot came out pure white, blown out by light that wasn't there. I even tried switching cameras. Same result. Then came the hum. First, I thought it was tinnitus, but no, this was different. Not in the ears, in the chest, in the bones. Like something tuning itself just beneath the threshold of comprehension. I hear it now. I think I've been hearing it for some time. It's the same sound from my dreams, the low resonance that always comes just before the language turns inside out. Just before I stop being sure the words are mine. Well, I think the diary wants me to continue. I think it needs me to. I'll translate one more entry tonight. Just one, and then I'll stop. God, I have to stop. The heart of the machine is not a machine. Volkov's diary, entry 13, January 22nd, 1962. I've lost track of how long we've been walking. No one agrees on the time. My watch ticks, but the hands remain fixed. Sokolov says it's been a day. Malenkov swears it's been 3. Personally, I think the hours have folded in on themselves like the tunnels do, looping, branching, rejoining with impossible symmetry. We've marked the walls, left notations, stacked stones, but we always end up somewhere new. This place edits itself. Sokolov is no longer speaking in Russian, not exactly. His words contain phonemes I can't place, rounded guttural syllables that don't match any Slavic dialect. Yet we understand him. At least we feel like we do. When he speaks, our heads tilt involuntarily, as if the sounds are being received somewhere beneath conscious thought. I catch myself repeating them under my breath when I think no one's listening. He says we're being reshaped, that language is proximity. I don't know what that means. We came upon another chamber today, or it came upon us. I say this because we passed this junction before. I remember the spiral relief etched into the archway. Same curvature, same flaking frost pattern, but this time the spiral turned inward instead of out. Sokolov said it had opened. Inside, a shallow basin at the center of the floor, shaped like a cradle or a wound. Within it, a black fluid still as glass. When we approached, it stirred without surface tension, like something breathing just beneath. Sergeant Vasily turned toward it, reaching toward it, his fingers barely brushing the edge, and he staggered back. Didn't scream, just opened his mouth and gasped like a man drowning in silence. His lips kept moving after, as though he were talking, but no sound came. Later we found a message scratched into the frost in his canteen. It showed me home. Anton is convinced the structure is responding. The glyphs are spreading, etching themselves softly into the walls like growing lichen. One now appears inside my notebook, uninked, pressed into the page as though embossed by heat or pressure. I didn't draw it. I swear on my mother's grave, I don't remember drawing it. When I touch it, I feel something. Not pain exactly. Like a memory that's not mine. Cold sun, a tower, hands not shaped like hands. Volkov is taken to sleeping outside the main camp alcove. Says he doesn't like how the shadows are leaning. I laughed at that until I noticed it too. The way light bends around corners, pooling at strange angles, as though the structure is bending not just space, but attention. Sometimes I catch my own shadow lagging behind. Oh, the diary is harder to maintain now. My thoughts skip like stones over dark water. Some entries I don't recall writing, others seem too polished. Not my voice. Yet the handwriting matches. The phrasing feels familiar. I wake up with ink on my fingers and pages filled in. I asked Sokolov if he'd written in it while I slept. He just smiled and said, "You'll be grateful when you remember." Well, I am frightened, but not in the way I expected. It's not terror, it's something quieter. Anticipation. Part of me wants to go further, to find the center, to see what's breathing in the stone. Whatever it is, it's listening. I think it's learning our names. Episode 5. Threshold. Dr. Rourke, January 13th and 14th, 2025. I wake up on the floor. For a few seconds I just lie there staring at the ceiling, my breath fogging in the cold air. My bed is untouched. The sheets are perfectly smooth, as if I'd never slept in them at all. My body aches, stiff from the frozen ground, but I have no memory of getting out of bed. Something hums in the walls. It isn't the distant intermittent hum of the base's generators, no. This is deeper, threading through the metal, vibrating in my bones. God, I can feel it now, pulsing like something alive. I sit up, my head spinning. My notebooks are scattered across the floor, but not randomly. They're arranged. A spiral, a deliberate pattern. The pages are filled with glyphs drawn over and over, the ink smudged under my fingertips. I don't remember writing them. I don't remember anything. Take a slow breath, trying to steady myself. I tell myself it's exhaustion, stress, and lack of sleep. But the harm hasn't stopped, and the walls feel wrong. And then I step into the hallway and I realize something has changed. The corridor that wasn't there before. God, I know this base. I know every room, every junction. I could walk it blindfolded. But when I turn toward the research lab, I stop dead. The door in front of me shouldn't be here. I stare at it, my pulse hammering. The layout isn't right. There was never a door here, but it's real, smooth and metallic, just like the others. Except for the message scrawled across it in faded ink. Do not follow it. The handwriting is hurried, uneven, and familiar. I take a step closer. My breath catches. It's Volkov's. The descent. God, I hesitate. Every instinct tells me to turn around to leave the door shut, but the hum is stronger now, vibrating through my ribs. I press my hand to the handle. It's ice cold. The door creaks open. Darkness yawns beyond. A tunnel, unlit, descending deeper beneath the ice. My flashlight flickers as I step forward, and for a split second the walls around me change. One moment smooth ice, wet and glistening, the next rough-hewn stone, etched with symbols shifting in and out of focus. I freeze. My breath is too loud in the silence. The passage narrows, then widens again, like a throat inhaling. The hum warps, turning into patterns, tone shifting, syncing with my heartbeat. At the end of the tunnel, I step into a chamber. And the chamber knows me. The chamber reacts to me. A voice crackles to life. Dr. Rourke, recording entry. Spin around, pulse spiking. The words are mine, but I'm not speaking them. The recorder sits on a nearby table, playing back something that does not exist. My flashlight trembles in my grip. I lift it to the ice wall ahead, and I see my own reflection. It watches me, and then, a second too late, it moves. I stagger back, my breath sharp. The glyphs on the wall shift, rearrange themselves. They're not where they were a moment ago. And the hum deepens. No longer just sound. No, it's something else now. Something felt more than heard. A slow, deliberate pulse. A heartbeat. I reach out, my fingers touch the frozen wall, and for a moment, just a moment, I'm not in Antarctica. I'm somewhere older, somewhere impossible. A rush of sensation, cold, deep, endless, and then I'm back. I stumble away from the wall, gasping, my hands shaking. The hum has faded, but I know it's still there beneath the surface. My wrists feel heavy. I glance down. My breath stops. The watch on my wrist is not my watch. The metal is worn, scratched, the face cracked, the lettering Cyrillic. It's Soviet. A whisper escapes me, unbidden, a thought I shouldn't be able to form. Volkov is still here. Volkov's diary, entry 13 or 14? January 22nd, 1962. I count the heads in the dim light of my lantern. 1 missing. I scan the faces, pale, hollow-eyed. Sokolov, Kuznetsov, Mikhailov. All accounted for. My stomach knots. Dr. Markova is gone. I grip my notebook, fingers stiff from the cold. I don't recall hearing movement in the night, no footsteps, no struggle, just the ceaseless hum in the walls. She is simply gone. We search the chamber, our voices low, as if speaking too loudly might awaken something. And then Kuznetsov sees it, half buried in the ice. A glyph. It's unlike the others. Newly cut, the edge is still wet as if the ice itself is bleeding. It shimmers when the lantern light moves, but it does not melt. Anton Sokolov traces the symbol with a gloved hand, tilting his head as if listening. She didn't leave, he murmurs. She was taken forward. The way he says it, forward, not away, makes my blood run cold. The chamber reacts, the ice shifts, not in a way that can be seen, only felt. Like the moment before a migraine, when the world seems wrong in a way you can't define. The walls ripple at the edges of my vision, but when I turn, they are still. And Sokolov stops. He gestures ahead, voice trembling. There was no tunnel there before. Well, he's right. A new passage yawns before us, cutting through the chamber's edge, but it's not made of ice. The walls are stone, rough-hewn, blackened like something scorched. The air is warmer. Wrong. My breath doesn't fog. My skin prickles. I reach out and press my hand against the rock. It's warm. No, not warm. Alive. Kuznetsov recoils. That's not stone. I don't correct him. I don't have the words. At the tunnel's end, something gleams. A shard. Judged from the ground like broken glass, wide as a man's torso. Its surface ripples like water, but when I reach toward it, my reflection stares back. I step closer. My reflection lags behind. A full second delay. I lift my hand. My mirror self does the same, but too late. The delay is growing, a widening gap in time. I feel Sokolov at my side, barely breathing. "It shows us," I whisper, "but not as we are, as we were, or as we will be." Kuznetsov is the first to lose control. He lets out a curse, steps back, and then fires. The shot shatters the silence. The bullet strikes the mirror, and then Kuznetsov is gone. The rifle clatters to the stone. His breath still hangs in the air. A moment ago, he was standing beside me. Now there is only his reflection, frozen in the shard. He does not move. I turn to Anton. My voice is barely a whisper. "Did you see that?" He doesn't answer because Anton is gone too. I spin, lantern swinging wildly. The ice behind me splinters, fractures running like veins through glass. The hum in the walls deepens, warping, shifting. No, not a hum anymore. A whisper. The ice cracks beneath my feet, and then the chamber breathes. Dr. Rourke, January 14th, 2025. Night. God, I'm dreaming again, except this time the dream is dreaming me. I stand in the ice, breath fogging in the still air. A corridor stretches before me, one I have never seen before, but I remember it. The ice is deep, blue-black like the ocean floor. And behind it, figures. They move sluggishly, like watching old film reel with missing frames. Heavy suits, Soviet insignia. Volkov's team. I see them through the ice, but they do not see me. Well, not at first. Then, one by one, they slow. They turn. Their breath curls against the frozen walls, their voices echoing too late. The words overlap. Conversations split across decades, but I understand it. Not because I speak Russian, because I remember Russian. Volkov's lips move, delayed. His voice reaches me seconds after my own voice. The words are the same. We are speaking together. I wake up with a sharp inhale, except this is not where I fell asleep. The cold presses against me from all sides. My fingers twitch against frozen stone. I lift my head, trying to orient myself. My flashlight is gone, but I don't need it. The ice is glowing, and I'm no longer alone. My notebook lies open beside me. The pages turn on their own. I see my own handwriting, disjointed, frantic, but it's not just mine. Volkov's ink bleeds into mine, his final entry converging with my own. Two voices, one message. The ice groans. The hum deepens, pressing against my skull, and then silence. Episode 6, The Endless Reflection. Dr. Rourke, January 15th, 2025. Night. I wake to the glow. Not the dim flickering fluorescence of the base, but a pale, unnatural light that seems to seep from the ice itself. The chamber hums, low, rhythmic, like something vast and unseen is exhaling beneath me. My breath hangs in the cold air, motionless, and then I see it. Volkov's diary. It lies open beside me, pages stiff with age and cold, but something's wrong. The ink, it hasn't dried. The words are fresh, glistening as if just written. My hands tremble as I turn the pages. The entries do not stop where they should. Well, the last official record of Volkov's team ended on January 22nd, 1962. Yet here, the words keep going. And then I see it. My name. Scrawled in the margins over and over. Rourke. Written in a hand that is not mine. Written in Volkov's hand. And the loop begins. A sound, faint, distant at first, then closer. Footsteps. I freeze. They echo from somewhere beyond the chamber, their weight deliberate and steady. But the tunnels are empty. I know they are. I was alone when I descended. I swallow. My mouth is dry. Hello? My own voice answers back from behind me. I turn too fast, flashlight beams slicing across the frost-veiled walls. Nothing. But the ice looks different now. It's breathing, not moving, not shifting, but inhaling, exhaling just beneath the surface. I step back. My boot crunches against the frozen floor. The walls pulse. The hum deepens, vibrating in my bones. The ice is not just remembering, it's responding. Volkov's final entry, January 23rd, 1962. We were never alone. Anton steps from the ice. He should not be here. I feel my breath catch in my chest, my rifle slipping from my grip. He vanished. Anton Sokolov vanished. Hours ago, days. Time has unraveled beyond my understanding, but now he stands before me, unchanged, untouched by hunger, cold, or fear. And yet, his eyes are wrong. Black, not empty, but full, filled with some vast things, something old. And his lips part, but the voice that comes forth is not his own. The sound is like breaking ice and distant thunder. Words spoken in no language I recognize, yet I understand them all the same. They are the glyphs, spoken aloud. And the chamber responds. The ice is watching. The walls pulse in rhythm with Anton's voice, rippling as if liquid beneath their frozen shell. The hum becomes a whisper, not one voice but many. I hear them breathing my name, then I hear my own voice. Not from my throat, but from ahead of me. The passage stretches forward, the ice shimmering like a reflection upon black water. I step closer. I hear Rourke. His voice clear as if he were standing just beyond the threshold. He's calling my name. He's calling from the future. I look down at my diary. The ink is moving, spreading across the page, forming words I have not written. I watch as they write themselves. Past and future collide. I do not know if I am writing this entry, or if I've already written it. I see him. Volkov. Not a photograph, not a recording. He's here, staring back at me from within the ice. Now, the reflection is not perfect. I reach up to touch my face. He does the same, but his hand moves just a fraction too late. One of us is ahead, one of us is behind. He looks older, weathered. His uniform is torn, his breath fogging against the surface. I look younger somehow, the weight of the years peeling away from me. And we open our mouths at the same time. And we speak. The words overlap, not in unison, but out of sync, one voice chasing the other. And then, the ice splits open. The hum reaches a frequency beyond sound, beyond perception, a pulse felt inside my bones. Beyond the ice, something moves. Not a creature, not a being. A presence. It's not seen, but it is understood. Its form is shifting, an ungraspable echo of everything it's ever observed. It is made of time, of memory, of thought. It's been waiting, guiding, leading us both here. Volkov's lips move, but I do not hear his words. Instead, I hear my own voice speaking back at me. Oh, truth is not meant for humans. I feel something pulling at my thoughts. My memories are unraveling. I reach for my childhood. It is not there. In its place, I remember the Soviet barracks, the smell of oiled rifles, the cold sting of January air in 1962. Volkov gasps. His breath becomes my breath. I know what he is seeing. My life. He clutches his head, struggling against something that cannot be fought. We are becoming each other, not erased, not consumed, repurposed. The presence does not kill. It rewrites. Rourke's final entry, January 16th, 2025. To whoever finds this. A message left behind. I cannot feel my hands. The cold has settled into my bones, deeper than flesh, deeper than thought. I do not know how long I've been here. Volkov's diary lies open before me. The ink is smeared, the pages brittle with frost. I do not want to write, but I must. Grip my pencil, barely. My fingers will not obey. Still, I carve the words into the margins. Volkov's words led me here. I hope mine leads someone back. The ice groans. The chamber is closing. The hum has faded. The pulse has stopped. Only silence remains. I try to write more, but my hand stiffens, locks in place. The pencil drops. The last words scrawl in uneven, frozen strokes. I do not know if I am writing this, or if it has already been written. The research base, February 2025. Weeks later, a new expedition arrives at the research base. The landscape is untouched, the snow having buried all traces of what came before. Inside, the station remains eerily intact. Lights flickering, equipment in place, and yet something feels wrong. There's no sign of Dr. Rourke. No footprints, no body, just an absence, vast and heavy. Then on a desk in the center of the room, they find them. 2 diaries. One old, one new. Volkov's journal, its pages brittle with age, and beside it, Rourke's. Its final entry still wet with ink. A researcher hesitates, fingers hovering over the open book. Outside, the wind shifts. It moves differently now, curling around the station like something sentient. For a moment, the world holds its breath. Then, just beneath the howling gusts, something appears. One name. You still out there? Still with me? How many of you fallen asleep, eh? Well, if you have, I guess you're not listening to me saying this, so you're not going to be able to respond. Okay, that was a long one this evening. Hope you enjoyed that. One of my favourite settings. One of the few places on Earth still relatively untouched by human disaster. Well, we'll wait and see. Maybe not for much longer, but anyway. So yeah, thoughts, feelings, anything you want to say about that one? I thought that was handled really well. 2 different timelines converging under the presence of something alien, supernatural, not quite sure. Well, anyway, anything you want to say about that one in the comment section below the video, and as ever, I will do my best to join in the conversation. That is all for your Friday evening's entertainment. I'll be back again probably on Sunday night. So until then, have a lovely weekend, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story today. It really means a lot to me and to the author of the story, of course. Well, if you want to know more about me, I'm pretty much everywhere on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can download my music on SoundCloud. I've got a Patreon if you feel like. Throw me $1 or 2. Very much appreciated. And of course, on Reddit, I have a place where you can leave stories if you want me to read one that you've written. Well, hoping to see you all again very soon. Till then, sweet dreams, and bye-bye.